Hello and welcome to the Hume podcast, Roll and Roll. For those of you who don't know what Hume is a recruitment training business co-founded by myself, Ed Khan, and Laura Hopes.
And each week we're going to be giving you 10-minute snippets into our world of recruitment, tips and tricks to help you on your journey as an agency recruiter, and hopefully some laughs along the way too. Hope you guys enjoy.
Okay, cheers guys.
Cheers. This
So-
explains...
My current state of affairs, that is cruel. It's Friday afternoon, I'm drinking a peppermint tea. You know, my body is a temple with my little baby.
Oh, I thought you weren't going to mention the baby.
Oh,
But
no.
there's a reason she's not drinking champagne with me.
Otherwise, I'd be on that. And also, it's funny because you poured the champagne and then we realised what episode we're doing and it looks a bit like we're being naff. Because this episode is Traits of a $1 Million Biller, and that couldn't look more smug.
Yeah, champagne isn't one of them. That's not what we're talking about.
Well, it's one of the outcomes of a $1 Million Biller, I guess, is being able to drink whatever champagne you want.
I feel like it's such a hot topic because not everyone, because everyone's got different goals, but a lot of recruiters that I know lord up this $1 million biller.
Yeah.
I want to be a $1 million biller. That's usually one of the goals that they set themselves. And so, today's episode, I mean, in 30 collective years, we've met a lot of $1 million billers. I've managed quite a few of them. You would have managed quite a few of them.
I feel like I've met more in the last 3 years.
Yeah.
As technology advances
And you can streamline,
you know, are created, I think. But yeah, we thought we'd do this episode on the traits of, like, what are the actual fundamental traits? Because we are often asked, like, how do I get to that coveted status? Like, how do I get from billing $700K a year to $1 million a year? And a lot of it is process management. Like, a lot of it is creating efficiencies. But in terms of the softer skill, I think that's what we want to focus the chat on.
I think that's the thing.
Yeah.
And that hasn't changed in my 13 years of recruitment experience, or the actual traits.
Yeah.
They've remained the same. Like, technology comes and it improves your process and streamlines it, and that's great. But there's so many other fundamental skills, traits of that high performing. Doesn't even need to be $1 million biller. You could be striving to be a $700,000 biller when you're a $300K biller at the moment. It's the same sort of things that you'll need to be focusing on.
Yeah, the first for me is that level of consistency. Like, I have never, and you know what? People can bill $1 million in a year. Unfortunately, by being transactional, they can. But to maintain that level and that status of billing, you have to have a really consistent approach to managing and nurturing your clients, to looking after your candidate pools, and to the effort and energy that you put in every single day. Like, you can't really go, I'm not very motivated this month, and that's okay. Like, there does have to be this continual focus on, like, how do I make sure that I'm maintaining my activity, knowing that that is going to lead to the outcomes in 3 months.
Yeah, 100%. And this may be counterproductive saying this, but I personally have never got into $1 million of billings, just me on my own. And the reason is, and one of the things that you can't do as $1 million biller, in my opinion, is get bored of doing repetitive tasks.
The fundamental basics.
Every single $1 million biller that I know does the same thing again and again. A large portion of what they do the same thing again and again, and they're fine with doing that. And it, for me, I think it's just how I'm hardwired. I want to try new things, and I get bored quite easily.
Yeah, well, $1 million billers, they have to nurture that same patch, because you have to be able to get your accounts to a certain level and be continually adding to that. And, you know, it used to be, I think, it was a lot easier to become $1 million biller in recruiting in industries where you had a higher fee value. But, like, I'm now seeing $1 million billers in, like, business support recruitment, like, consistently, and it is the ones that have been on their desk, for a long period of time, and they continually put in that hard graft, and they've just increased every month, every year, so consistently to get to that point.
And they do the same thing.
Yeah.
They recruit in the same sector. They usually stay in the same geographical location. So over a number of years, over time, people just get to know them because they're there all the time. They're consistent. I mean, Joan Collins, my old boss, had been doing the same desk in the same location for 14 years. She was their highest performer year in, year out, and still is. And one of the things I asked her when I started is, why are you so successful of this team of 2,500 recruiters? How do you do it? She's like, everyone else just moves desks willy-nilly. They move companies willy-nilly. They get a higher base and so they move. She's like, I've been recruiting in Wimbledon in this seat for 12 years. She's like, it's not rocket science. She's like, you stay doing what you're doing, and over time people just get to know you naturally because you've been doing it for that long.
You're owning your craft, aren't you? Just over time, refining. And I think a trait that we see in, you know, some of the $1 million billers that we've seen and that we've worked with is that level of humility to be able to go, I take everything as a learning exercise. Like, how can I improve? How can I get better? I'll take that feedback back on board. Like, I care about that feedback. Like, I think if you have a sense of ego in a customer-driven role, it's very, very hard for you to continually improve. And we all say that we want constructive feedback, but actually receiving constructive feedback, like, I ask for it all the time, and it's still, you know, you have to really swallow, you know, a big part of, you know, your ego is designed to protect you, and no one wants to feel like they've done a bad job, and no one wants imposter syndrome but you do have to push down a lot of that stuff to be able to really take constructive feedback, say thank you for it, and then work with it.
And it is that learning piece, isn't it? Because you would ask for feedback because you want to learn based on what the other person is going to give you feedback on, and so you improve. And it has to be someone that does not stop wanting to learn. And a good example of this, actually a very good recent example, I had $1 million biller today, funnily enough, email me that message going, I bill $1 million, would love to catch up with you as for a coffee because I actually want to know what else I should be learning. I want to get to $3 million in billings. I'm like, great, that's exactly why you're $1 million biller, because you've asked for this sort of help and learning and development continuously throughout your career. No doubt that's one of the reasons why you're $1 million biller, and you still want to learn, and you've got humility enough to go, I don't know everything. What else do I need to know to improve on what I already do? There
was such a level of humility to that message. It was just like, I feel very lucky to be in the position I'm in, but I know that I'm not, you know, I'm on a continual journey. And I think then with that is your bounce back ability, because this job, like, it's really hard. And I think, you know, how do you pick yourself up each day and go, I'm going to throw everything I've got at it again and again and again and again.
And not take it personally and just go, cool, that was shit. I can't believe that candidate lied to me, the client lied to me, was about to make 50,000 from that fee. That's fucking shit. Okay, get on with it.
You can't get jaded.
No. And it's those that do that, not mope's the wrong word, but really take that in and let that negativity take over, and then it impacts the rest of their week, the rest of the month, the rest of the quarter. It's those people that I never see actually billing any significant amounts. Because they let that negativity
reign.
Actually, take over.
Whereas
the $1 million biller goes, that was shit. What can I learn from that? What will I not do again in that situation? Is there anything to learn? If not, cool, let's move on.
I think something that had always prevented me, like, in the past with this type of stuff as well, is burnout. And I think if you do treat this job as life or death, which I have the tendency to do in my career. Like, I can work in a way which is very, very intense. But what happens then is then I burn out. And then I'm like, and then I kind of need a breather or a reset or whatever. And then I'll build up to working that way again. And I think, you know, it does come down to that consistency piece, but I think it does come down to being able to step outside of yourself and being like, am I taking myself to a path to burnout? Because if you, again, want to be consistent, you need that level of balance and well-being. Like you need to go, do I need to work till 8 o'clock tonight, or can I actually step away so that when I do need to do it, I'm fresh to do it? Like
100%.
I think having really strong boundaries.
I was just going to say, but you're very good at that.
Now.
I think you're so good at that.
Now I am.
And that's the boundaries piece is such a common thread. I mean, I think of Andy, who was consistent biller that used to work for me. Very, very clear boundaries. You knew you could not call him past 5:30. That was his boundary. So cool, I'll work incredibly hard, but 5:30 on weekends, absolutely not. He was very clear on that, and he would never do anything outside of those hours. But within the time allotted, he would go hard.
Yeah. Because I think if you don't have that, then you will take yourself to a point where you're like, I can't do this anymore. Which is what I've done so many times in my career. Like, worked myself to the bone to the point where it's like, oh my God, maybe it's the job's problem. Where it's actually what I've learned over the years is that it's always been my problem. Well, not always, but you know what I mean? Like, it's been my problem with how I manage the intensity as opposed to the intensity itself.
Yeah, the other thing I was just thinking of, and I was thinking of a few people that I've worked with, another common trait is not getting sucked in with negative talk around the office or office politics. They typically do not get involved.
Well, I think culture changes so significantly in a recruitment agency, like every 2 years, right? Because there is turnover. We know that, you know, people don't stay in a recruitment role or in an agency. You know, the turnover is quite regular. And so I think if you are $1 million biller and you are spending, you know, a long time in an agency, you do have to be able to adapt to the change of that. And if you get too involved in a certain clique and you get caught up in the flavour of that 6 months, then you're constantly going to feel like the rug's pulled out from under you. And there does need to be, like, not an aloofness at all, but there does need to be an ability to be invested in the company's values and mission and the people, but not so invested that, you know, that
one of them leaving is going to knock you.
Because the culture does shift, and we all know, like, recruitment agents, especially through COVID, like, if you're so attached to how it looks at that given time, and you're not able to be connected to the agency that you're in on a higher level, and you do, like, get yourself involved in a clique, and that's the flavour of this 6 months, and, you know, you've had a load of new starters and and you get so invested in that, and then naturally over the course of 2 years people leave and leave the industry or whatever, you're going to constantly feel like...
Is that adaptability? I think it's adaptability, isn't it? It's being able to go, okay, the situation's changed in whatever shape or form. Clients have changed, my sector's changed, candidate behaviours have changed, COVID's happened. You need to be able to go, okay, where's the opportunity? What else can I do? And adapt to this new changed situation rather than going, oh, woe is me, the situation's changed, this is awful, that my biggest client has left. It's being able to see those situations and go, cool, I'm going to adapt and pivot. Yeah.
Which out of those is your most, do you think is the most important?
Consistency. I think just doing. I mean, a good example is HumeScope. When we first opened HumeScope, we were working on it half a day a week. We were doing really well, but it's only over a compounded period of time of doing the same thing again and again, doing webinars every month, that we didn't see huge amounts of success in the first 3 months. I mean, we sold quite a lot of courses, but it wasn't huge amounts of success. And over, I'd say, a year later, after doing all of these exact same things again and again and again and again and adding value, that was our whole mission, is add value, add value, add value. Those things compound over time, and then you see the success. But I think most people won't get to the success because they go, I've done 3 webinars, I haven't made money, okay, I'm going to try something else, this doesn't work. There's no consistency there. And I think that probably is the most important one for me across any role, not just recruitment. It's the consistency to do things and stay within your conviction to do them, and trust that it will work.
I think mine is the humility, because I think I see a lot of recruiters who, well, not a lot, but I do experience recruiters who are like, I want to get to this point, but I don't want to have to change anything. It's kind of like, well, this is the way I do it and I think it works, but then in the next breath, the question is, but how do I bill more money? And so I think it's that humility to be able to ask for help and not make assumptions that you have learnt enough.
Yeah, that's
You know,
a good one.
Like, what else could I possibly have to learn from this person or this person or this person? Like, we learn stuff from our rookies.
Yeah.
Like, they bring stuff up in the course. They're like, and you could do it like this. And we're like, fucking hell, I've never thought about doing that.
And we always say to everyone in our courses that we don't know everything.
Yeah.
So if you're going to share something, we don't know it, we will tell you we don't know it, and we'll ask you to share more so we can learn.
So I think, you know, there's never a point in your recruitment career where you can't be learning.
Yeah. Would love to hear everyone's thoughts. Drop a note to, if you're watching this on YouTube, in the comments, on LinkedIn, in the comments, or...
It's very salesy of you. When do you do this
It
pitch
is.
at the end?
But I thought it was quite a good one, because we've only covered like 4 or 5
yeah,
things.
no, I'd love to... Yes, I would. I'd love to hear what other people... Fuck everyone else. No, I'd love to hear what other people's opinions are.
On what, what other traits. Thanks so much for watching, Dave.
Thanks, guys.